everyone. Welcome back to another Canada Immigration Live Q&A with myself, Mark Holthley, Canadian immigration lawyer. It is absolutely great to be back again for another edition of this weekly event, the Wednesday morning live Q&A, where you get your questions answered on Canadian immigration. Well, we've got some new levels plans, don't we? The minister has announced where they're going to be putting their efforts, the composition of the future immigrants to Canada, where they're going to come from. And we know that those who have been suffering the most have been the economic PRs, especially you guys in Canada and you guys overseas. So the question becomes, what does the future hold for immigration? Well, we'll talk a little bit about that today. All right, big shout out to everybody that's tuning in for the first time. This live Q&A has been going on for 5-6 years. Every morning I love coming on here Wednesdays, joining all of you. And today is no different. All right, let's see who we've got connected in here. We've got Reji, who's over from India. Happy to join live. That's great. Thanks for joining us. Manzoor is here. She says, I love the time watching while having lunch. Excellent. That's great. Minal, hello to you as well. Anyone who's tuning in, please post in the comments where you're listening from. I love to give shout outs to people. I love the frequent viewers, those who are tuning in and have been doing so for a long time, like Amit down in Virginia. You've been around for a while, haven't you, Amit? And then we've got over on LinkedIn, Verinder, hello to you. We've got Facebook and we have Twitter, although I haven't seen much Twitter lately, but we've got LinkedIn, we've got YouTube, and we have Facebook as our primary sources. And it's kind of fun to broadcast to all of those. Now, the reality is with this, none of the platforms really like the fact that I am broadcasting simultaneously on all of them. So I don't get quite the reach, the organic reach that I would normally. So the request I have for you guys is that if you like this, make sure you share it and let your friends know that it's happening, because I really want to try to reach all of you no matter where you're tuning in. Minal from India, good to see you. We've got Fabrice, who's over in Toronto. Kabir is in Vancouver. Great to have you, Kabir. Haider from over in Iraq. Great to have you connecting in. Hello. Ariane says, hey, Mark, shout out from Nova Scotia. We've got quite the LinkedIn connection this time. This is great. Manzur says, old rusty Toronto. And Ranjith, it's good to have you here as well. So as we go forward, remember, this is your opportunity to get your questions answered. And it's pretty simple. If your question is of general nature, something that everybody's going to benefit from, then absolutely post that question and you're going to have a really good chance that it will get answered. Now, with that being said, if I slide over here, let's make sure I've got the right screen up. This is our firm website right here. And what I want to show you is if your question is, and I'm just going to turn up my sound effects here. If your question is one like this, where I ring the bell, then that really is something that you'll need to book a consult. So I'd encourage you to click on Speak to a Lawyer and slide down to our firm website and just select the lawyer that you want to book a consult with, and we can be here to help you and support you in your journey that way. So if you're wondering, Mark, why are you not answering my question? Because it's probably legal advice that's just too specific. But if I can find a way to pull something general out of it, I'll do that as well. Also, if you want to bump your question up, because there's so many people that are posting them on YouTube, you can post a little super chat and that will allow you to get your question answered a little bit quicker. Okay, let's jump in here and see. So Ranjith is over in Toronto. Good to see you. And Binod is also over on LinkedIn. So we're actually, LinkedIn is competing. I'm pretty impressed. LinkedIn is really starting to make some ground here on YouTube. So very, very cool. And G2D2, good to see you as always. Okay, so if you like, start posting your questions. I'm going to go through, make sure you put a Q in front of it, just like John Max here. And I'll use his as an example. He says, hello, Mark. Any latest news regarding TR to PR? I already have AOR, but still waiting for a decision. I applied January 29th last year. Stream B, thank you so much. Not a word, John. It's not a priority. And yes, and so that is yeah, what do you say? The processing times when they're not set, when they don't have a target they have to hit, like express entry, those types of applications are just not going to be given the same level of, same level of priority. Now, that being said, I think some of you probably know, if you attended my live yesterday that I did, if you go to our YouTube channel, those of you who are watching on YouTube, this will be really easy. If you're watching on LinkedIn or Facebook, slide over to our YouTube channel and you'll see that yesterday I did breaking news, and this was about an hour I took, but I also answered questions. It's all about on the new 2023, 2025 immigration levels plans. And this right here, these levels plans are something that you need to pay attention to. I'm going to pause that. And this is something that you need to pay attention to, because this whole process here, with the levels plans, is something, and you can see here as you go in, we've got links to a whole bunch of other things here, but the annual levels plans, I need to put a link in there. We did this so quickly that I didn't post one. I really like to show you guys the source of where I'm getting this information, but just give me a second and I'll show you. As I flip back here, I'm just going to pull up the actual link, so bear with me a second. Okay, so I'll flip over now. So this is where the breakdown, the summary of the 2023 to 25 levels plans. And I went in detail in the video right here. I went in that in detail, this one right here, over this in detail. So go check it out if you haven't checked it out, because not only do I say, hey, here's what happened, and hey, they're shooting at a high range of 550,000 total immigrants by 2025. That's all great and dandy. But the reality is, what does it really mean for you? What do the trends mean? You know, programs like the Atlantic Immigration Program, you can see, well, where's this fellow from? Our fine minister. The minister is right over here, you guys. He is from the Atlantic provinces. So surprise, surprise, 8,500. In 2024, 11,500. In 2025, 14,500. So there's going to be more and more spots available. And remember, this is on top of what the provincial nominees are being granted. You can see the numbers there. PNPs are becoming a significant component to the immigration strategy of our fine government here. And you can see total economic right here, the summaries, 2,606. 2,066. 266,000 is what I'm trying to say here. 281 up to 300,000 economic immigrants, and this is the highest levels that we've ever seen. So clearly, immigration is important to our government. Immigration and the levels and making sure that they are high is important to our minister, Minister Fraser here. So thank you, Minister, for once again stepping up and delivering when it comes to the economic programs. Now, lots of people are going to ask questions, and I open it up for you guys to ask those. You're going to be asking questions about, well, what does this mean for me? Is there a better approach that I should take to increase my chances? And the answer is yes. And I do talk about that in the video that I did yesterday. This is all about answering your questions, but understand that going forward, the most important thing is that you have to keep your options open. And I will say this over and over again, you guys, but the reality is, if you are looking to immigrate to Canada and you have a choice where you're going to live, you really need to consider going somewhere outside of the major centers of Ontario and British Columbia, and Quebec for that matter. But Ontario and British Columbia are saturated with students, with foreign workers, and there are only so many spots that are available, you guys. When you look to the various PNP programs, these are spread fairly equally across the country. And if they have, if in one of the other videos that I did, I'll flip back here again. Let's say not this one, go to the YouTube channel. If you go back to some of the other videos that I did, the one on the main screen actually doesn't show up here. I did a video on my top 6 takeaways right here. This video here, I talk in depth about the 6th last section, which is all about international students and the impact of this report on them. Please understand that the government is looking very keenly at options to encourage people to move out of the larger centers to rural locations and to provinces that are not British Columbia and Ontario. And so if you're looking on where you're going to go, I'd strongly encourage you to consider these realities. And one of them is increasing numbers in the Atlantic provinces and the various provincial nominee programs. All right. Okay, so there we go. We got the question, the basic information out of the way. Okay, let's jump in and let's see what we've got. I don't think I have any supers yet. Let's see here. No supers yet. Okay, so moving forward, let's see. We'll give some more shout outs and let's dive into our questions here. Okay, Ali says, I did my IELTS, improved my score by more than 25 points for EE. Thank you for the advice. I will give you some applause there, Ali. That's fantastic. All right, what's next here? Kumar says, any hope for 464 CRS with 1 year of Canadian experience by April 2023? Well, remember that bill last year. Let's go back here and I'll just flip to this screen here. If you go here and then we open this link right here, this takes us to the full text of the report. And in some of the key highlights, you can see here that they talk about how many they welcomed in 2021 last year, that permanent residents, there were over 405,999 residents. And then if you go down here, the temporary residents, there was over 445,000 students and 415,000 workers. Now, not all of these are going to want to become, this, but you can see the numbers just don't equate, right? You've got 800,000 here, 860,000. And here you have 405. So over time, you have to realize that not everybody's going to get through. But if you go through here, you're going to say, okay, well, where is the government's focus? And as I was going through and reviewing this, there's a couple things that stand out. And one of them is the fact that the minister, with his new fancy powers, now has the ability to do targeted draws. And he has had that ability for some time. So I'm not going to dive too deep into here, but you can see another significant milestone, and they actually highlight this in the heading, right? The minister's comments himself. Another significant milestone to highlight is Bill C-19. They embedded it within the Budget Act, which received royal assent in June 2022, which the vast majority of you are already familiar with this. That it implements many of the government's commitments to grow our economy and make life more affordable for Canadians. It will make it easier for skilled immigrants to make Canada their home. Why? Because the government is by improving the government's ability to select applicants from the express entry system who fill labor shortages and match the needs of Canada's business. So what does that mean? Well, that's code for we're not just going to go by human capital alone. So is 464 going to be enough? It depends on your work experience. If the minister decides to do targeted draws, well, it may very well be that 464 is going to be plenty. So we'll just have to see. All right. As always, I've got my visitor. Come on up. Okay. Say hello. Okay. There you go. Oh, you guys, we have snow outside. It is snowing. The snow is coming down, and winter is here, unfortunately, and I am sad. Okay, gone are the sun. Gone are the nice sunny days. Gone is the beautiful green grass that I can walk barefoot in my backyard. Gone are the nice summer days walking up and down the coulees. But you know what? The snow and the winter doesn't stop me with that. Me and my fearless compadre here, Simba, yeah, we go out regardless of the weather. All right, let's see what we got going on here. Moving forward. All right, let's see. Okay, Haydar says, I have a question. Does the full-time employment recently announced for international students count for PR later? At this stage, it doesn't. So there's been no changes regulatory-wise. But that's a good question. That would suggest that work experience is now going to magically count. So for the purposes of CEC, the answer is no. They haven't made any regulatory changes other than saying students can work. And as I talked about yesterday in the video that I did, I would strongly, strongly encourage people not to do that if at all possible, because of how competitive things are. And once again, I talked about this, like I said yesterday, but because of how competitive it is, when they're, maybe this is going to stretch to 500. Remember that in the actual plan itself, you can see here that the total number of economic immigrants is 266. Now, not all of the individuals that are coming in as, as students and workers are going to be going through the economic programs, but there's still only 266,000 there, right? With the plan to increase it to 300,000 by 2025. You can see that there's number of spouses. They're looking at 78,000. Parents and grandparents is slowly increasing up to 36 in 2025. But the total family is 106,500. So 106,500. Total refugees, 76,000. Total humanitarian compassionate, 15,985 for this year, which is actually, you can see they're planning on it going down. So, excuse me. So with all these factors at play, these are the numbers that you're really looking at, 266 all the way up to 300, which are the economic programs, which include the PNPs, remember, the Atlantic Immigration Program, this Quebec Skilled Worker and Business, this plan, it's all to be determined, not factored in yet. 8,500 for the agri-food, rural northern immigration pilot. You can see how small this is. And the economic mobility pathways, which is to help refugee transition. Federal business, the startup visa, self-employed categories. You can see how small it is. It's supposedly increasing, but man, the backlog for these is just off the charts. And then this is the TR to PR pathway. So you can see they just have it wrapping up in 2023. Little sneeze there. Okay, let's get back to some more questions. Okay, let's see. Bernard, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. Watching over on LinkedIn. Okay, great. So Lewis says, hello, nice to meet you. I would like to ask you about self-employed visa for a singer artist in Vietnam who plans to open a gallery in Canada. Thanks so much. Well, Lewis, it is possible. That type of work experience does fit squarely within those intended for self-employment. And the self-employed category has been languishing. Processing times are off the charts. So this is an important factor that you guys need to take into consideration. Now, Lewis, if this is your option, well, there's no cap, so you submit it and you just let it roll. But if we go over here and let me share my screen and let's just take a look at the processing times. This is an indicator. Now, knowing, right, if we go back here, knowing that this program right here, the federal business, if we click on here, it shows that the federal business includes the startup visa program and the self-employed person program. So you are asking about the self-employed person program. So if we go here, let's take a look at the processing times, open it up, and we look right here. Then we go to economic immigration, and then we go, the class is self-employed, and then we get processing times. Do you see this? 41 months. So what is 41 months? Well, it's over 3 years, right? So you can see how long these processing times are. And this was last updated just last week, October the 5th. So please take that into consideration, as well as, the fact that we've got a lot of people coming in here temporarily. There's only so many spots. And in fact, those spots are really 266,000, slowly increasing. But regardless of all this, there is, things are moving ahead forward. All right. Okay, Nyang says, for proof of funds, how many months old a transaction if it's huge? To our bank account needs to be given explanation of the source. This one is really one that I'll ring the bell because there's so many factors associated with that. Immigration wants to know the source of your money. Now, you only need to provide your average balance for the last 6 months for the purposes of express entry. So arguably, they don't care what happened before 6 months. But that funds, where does it come from? Loans are not acceptable. You're not supposed to get a loan and use that for the purposes of immigrating to Canada. The key part is that that money is available to actually support you while you get settled. Excuse me. And I've had consultations with individuals that are here on study permits who now are thinking, oh, this is great. I'm going to be able to work full time while I'm studying. Well, your grades are going to suffer. You can't work full time and do excellent in school. And unless you're doing well in school and you're just the same as everybody else that graduates, you're going to have a hard time getting a good job. And if you have a hard time getting a good job, then your hope of coming and staying permanently in Canada is going to be seriously jeopardized. without a good job, without an employer supporting you, and the higher level, skill level your job is, the more likely it is that that employer, if you do not get an immediate invitation to apply for express entry or qualify through a PNP, that LMIA-based work permit that you can transition to is easier for that employer to get the more senior your position is, generally speaking. So keep that in consideration, okay? Okay, Hardy says, this is a great question. I'm going to give you an applause for that, Hardy. He says, do ITAs offered this year count for the permanent resident quota for this year or the 2023? Well, the reality is ITAs don't count at all. What they're looking at is actual landings in Canada. So people who have obtained their permanent resident status and come to Canada. So that if you're here, you've transitioned to PR. So it's actually not ITAs, Hardy. That's the factor. And lots of people decline ITAs for a number of reasons. I have many, many consultations with people over that same thing. Okay, Sahil says, I have a score of 484. Any chance of CRS reducing up to that in the next 3 months? My IELTS expires in February and I turn 30 in late April. Yes. 484? Possibly. We just, by the next 3 months, anything is possible. If you look at the number, the rounds of invitations, and if we pull these up, let's slide over here. Let's pull up the rounds of invitations and take a peek. When you look at these and you look historically, we know that the last draw last week happened 4,750 and it went down to 496, which I predicted, by the way. We scroll down here and we look at the total number of people in the queue. We know that into here, we had a certain number that were cut into there. So maybe that's, I don't know, maybe we have 3,000 that are left here. I guess maybe that's not the case. We probably pulled out with 937 here, 762 here. We've got what, about 1,600, 1,700 here. And then when you look at 4,750, I'm not a quick mathematician, but maybe another couple thousand here. So at this level here, we still have probably at least another draw, maybe more, to be able to get down to a point where it's going to break the 490 barrier. Anything that happens, so we'll just have to see how it all plays out. But ultimately, this is a reality, right? So to get down to the point, the level where you were asking, 484, I think it's going to take some time, Sahil. And that's why for a lot of you, anything you can do to increase your scores, French, an LMIA-based job offer, those are going to make the difference. You can see how competitive it is. And as we talked about, and as I demonstrated over and over, remember, there are, in 2021, 447, you can see, 445,000 study permit holders, 415,000 temporary foreign workers and international mobility program workers, and total 405. And you can see a large portion of those total landings, 191,000, were those that transitioned from temporary residence to under various TR to PR pathway. So not just the TR to PR pathway, but transitioning, from working in Canada to the Canadian Experience class or through a PNP. So that's how they take that into consideration. Lots of people, right? Vying for a small number of spots. All right, let's jump to the next question. Let's see here. We have SB. We've got one super here. I'm going to make sure I get that. See if I can find SB here. Okay. SB with the super says, I've been working for a company 1 year before its trade license was issued. Can't include that year in the total work experience or they will question it. Well, your obligation is to be able to prove that that company existed and that you were actually working in a legitimate operating company that paid you, that you were working, if it's a federal skilled worker, that first year continuous full-time in a skilled occupation. So the onus is on you. So can that, include that year in the total work experience or they'll question it? Well, unless you can provide solid evidence, then they could very well question it. And I'll just hit the bell and I recommend SB that if you have those questions that you slide over here, click on speak to a lawyer and we can provide you with some more specific advice. Lots of factors at play there. Okay. Let's see who is next on our list as we're zipping through here. Okay, Lee says, will PR be approved within 6 months after the request of medical examination? Maybe. Maybe. Okay, Kabir says, on landing, Does the 5-year clock start from then or the day we get the PR card? Also, how can we get a report to know days spent and lived in Canada to date for citizenship applications? Do you help with this, and what's the cost, please? So yes, I help with this. Everything starts with a consult. So that's where you go, Kabir. You go and book the consult. He says, thanks once again for the help. As always, needless to say, you are just great. Well, you're very welcome. Okay, Kabir, the timing for the 5-year is really when the PR card is going to be issued on the date that the PR card is issued. It will be valid for 5 years. Okay. That's 5 years of being able to travel back and forth. So it's going to go off of the date that's listed specifically on the permanent resident card. So, but what you're really looking at is the date that you submit your PR card extension. They will then look backwards 5 years from that date to determine residency. So from the date you apply, going backwards 5 years, have you shown that you've lived in Canada for at least 2 years in every 5-year period, physically present? Now, there might be a situation where you're traveling abroad with a Canadian citizen spouse and you're accompanying them. Well, every day outside of Canada accompanying a Canadian citizen spouse is a day in Canada for the purposes of maintaining PR. Doesn't work that way for citizenship, but it does for PR. So, and then how do you get the border crossing records? Well, you can get them both ways. You can get them from the US as well as the CBSA. And we can show, I can show you, Kabir, how to do that when you book the consult. All right. Okay. Hey, IRB Fox, another past alumnus of the Canadian Immigration Institute. I think for you, Ms. Fox, I think you had, I'm pretty sure you had taken the Express Entry course, and we just wrapped up one just last week. It was awesome. Such a great group of people. Haven't yet decided when I'm going to do this again, but I have decided to leave this cart open. And the reason I left it open is because now is when you guys want to get access to, and you can see here, you can subscribe and get access to the course material right now. But now is when you want to do that so that you can start going through all of the various sections of the process. And you can see I've talked at length about this. There's, over 642 minutes, which is like 10 hours of video content on demand. Right now, you can go through everything, including this detailed section that answers everything you want to know about the documents. All right. So yes, a past alumnus. It was awesome. Thanks for connecting in. It has been a long time. Okay. Manzur says, my SELP is expiring May 19th, but in any event, if I receive an ITA and submit my EAPR, so not the profile, your EAPR, and my results expire, does it count expired results or need to submit new results? As long as you've submitted it before the completeness check, really, before they look at it, and when you submit your EAPR, as long as it's still valid when you do that, then you're likely going to be just fine. Okay. All right, we got another super here. Let's pull this one up. This was from Njan Reji. What are some of the possible changes we can make to our EE profile after getting nomination from OINP and before ITA? Well, that is a really open question. Can you make changes? Yes, you can. In some cases, spouses who were listed as non-accompanying have been able to be added as accompanying, at least within the time frame in which you get leading up to the nomination. After you get the nomination, then your score is going to be reassessed with that spouse. Now, if you've got a 600-point nomination that's boosting your scores, usually adding a spouse after, even if they do reassess the comprehensive ranking system to include that of a spouse, it's usually not going to impact negatively because you've got so many points. So that's a change you can make. When it comes to the actual primary occupation, that's, when you've got a PNP nomination, yeah, that's a little sketch. But to just outline, Reggie, all the different things, you don't want to make changes, right? Hopefully when you obtain that nomination, everything was true, complete, and correct, and that you don't need to make changes in Express Entry. Some things you put in there in your profile originally, maybe you don't need them. Maybe you put in way more work history. Maybe in your work history section, you put low skill work, which is not getting you any points. Well, maybe that was an important component to what you were disclosing to the province, but you just don't need it for the EAPR. So all those things are things that we discuss in our consultations with our firm. After all, right? We're right here. I'm an immigration lawyer. All right, let's keep zipping through here. So thanks for that super chat there, Reggie. Okay, let's see who is next on our list here. Okay, Sahar says they don't issue PR for TR to PR applications this year anymore. Well, understand that if you look at the levels plans, and let's pull those up again, because why not, right? So if we look at the levels plans here, you can see that they have indicated how many for 2023, what they're going to do for next year. Now, I believe here, yes, I have 2022. So you can see they've indicated the numbers that they've projected for how many they're going to issue for 2022. So their goal is about 40,000. They projected as high as 48,000, but the target is about 40. Okay, so that's 2022. Then we flash forward here to 2023, and the numbers, you can see they're hoping to get it all wrapped up in about 25,000. But if they have to go as high as 32, they've got the flexibility to process more next year, up to 32,750. If in fact last year's, if they didn't get to the full 40,000, let's say maybe they only hit the lower end. So there's flexibility there. And you can see here, low range 25, they actually had a high range projected for next year of 32, but the high range, or the range right here that I shouldn't say high range, the average range is 32,750 is where it is for 2024. So that's something to take into consideration on the high end, and then on the low end, 25,000. So that's kind of what I want you to focus on, I guess, when it comes to processing. And so are they not processing? Well, they have the ability, it's October, to hold off and restart processing in January, but realistically, it's all going to wash through. So I don't think they're actually stopping processing these. Okay, Arian says, come to the Atlantic provinces. I'll give you an applause there. Okay, so Fabrice says, hey, Mark, I asked this question previously, but it was too late. Okay, I didn't get an answer. It's regarding scenario 3 for claiming arranged employment points on your website blog. Yes. Okay, so let's see, Fabrice, if we've got a continuation of your question here. Okay, does the 1-year experience with current employer need to be in Canada? Great question. I've always treated it as a yes, okay? And does the offer letter need to be different from the one used to obtain the current work permit? Yes. On both fronts, yes. So I've looked at length at that provision. We've never received formal determination from IRCC, but I always treat that 1 year as being yes in Canada, because otherwise, like, it defeats the purpose of what they're trying to accomplish here, right? So if they're giving points for someone who has a track record in Canada under the International Mobility Program, then it would make sense that that track record is one that was accumulated in Canada. That's the advantage of it. So, and when you have a multinational company like yours, Fabrice, this is something we can definitely book a consult, we can chat about, but ultimately the intention of that, what's behind it. And this is what I always tell my clients. I had 2 consults this morning before I went live. And then one post onboarding call, which we have after we're retained. I meet with the clients for half an hour to talk about the strategy going forward. But when it comes to this, the most important thing for them is that you are building ties to Canada. And the longer you have working in Canada, the more likely and attractive it is going to be that you're actually going to be able to settle and integrate. And so, yes. All right, let's see what is next. Okay, Minal says, I'd like to ask if I had my work experience in 2 different NOC codes in the last 5 years, is it acceptable for SI and P? Well, this is one where I have to ring the bell, because Minal, there are a ton of different programs within the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, and I would definitely need more information. Okay, Fabrice finishes off with, thank you so much for these live videos, by the way, very helpful. You're very, very welcome. Okay, Flora over on Facebook. Yes, we got our Facebook connection. I'm from Armenia, single mother, 2 children. How can I apply for Immigrate to Canada? Can you please give me any advice? This is where I ring the triangle, Flora, book a consult, slide over to our firm website, and you can have the ability to get not just your questions answered, but for us to strategize, the options that might be available. And I also want to point out, when it comes to booking those consults, I also spend time telling people when they don't have a chance of immigrating, not to waste their time pursuing Canada. And that's as valuable advice as it is getting someone who tells you, yeah, there's a chance, maybe give me money and I'll help you file your application. right? Yeah, you get those people. When I tell you, your chances are virtually none. Don't waste your money, pursue another country, or improving your prospects in your own country. Okay, Alan says, I got my PR recently. When I checked my personal history submitted for PR application, I came to know I missed a 5-week temporary job in Canada. Is this grounds for misrepresentation? Well, anything that you haven't posted in there is, that's true or accurate can lead to a misrepresentation finding. Alan, it's like realistically, what are your options once you've become a permanent resident, right? Ultimately your obligation is to make sure that everything is updated and true and complete and correct. But whether or not that would result in, there being some misrepresentation finding against you, I think the reality is that it would, there's always a possibility, but it would be unlikely, but doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. Okay. All right. Eric says, hi, Mark. Is it easier or better? And we're back at it again, right, Eric? I am hitting the triangle, man. Just slide over here and connect with us. Book a consult with Alicia. She's a specialist here in family. Oh, wait a minute. I can't say that. She focuses on family sponsorship right here. I highly recommend you slide over there, Eric. Okay, so your question, is it easier or better chances to sponsor your common law or sponsor after being married, so sponsor your spouse? Well, when it comes to the actual documentation required for common law versus marriage, well, there's less documentation for married couples than there is common law. I'd have to say that being married is easier than common law, but ultimately it just depends on your situation. Okay. Okay, so IRB Fox, is there any specific time frame for eligibility and security check? No, it just depends on the country and depends on the officer. Okay, this Facebook user says interviews are coming for students who applied for study permit nowadays. Entirely possible. Entirely possible. Now remember, advanced analytics is designed to help process applications faster, not slow things down with interviews. The reality is when it comes to study permit holders, they're more apt to just refuse it. Why would they do an interview? It takes time. Can they do an interview if they want to? Yes, they can. Okay, let's see here. Let's see what is next. Oh, we got a super here. We'll hit that one. Okay. Okay. So Lovey Dovey says, what's the difference between employment record and employment letter? Great question. There really isn't a lot. Like if you go into the document checklist and Lovey Dovey, I know this is an issue. It's a pain because ultimately there's this one magical section that opens up when you have a job offer in Canada. That's really what triggers it. So I'll often upload the same letters in both boxes, but you need to make sure that you do it correctly. And I provide letters of explanation to explain why I'm uploading what I'm uploading. I don't include, I don't have 3 separate letters, but I do have a separate job offer letter from that of my employment record. And then when it comes to this employment letter, it kind of crosses over both of them. So then in that section, I upload both the job offer and the employment record. And I'm assuming, lovey-dovey, that you actually have a job offer that meets the requirements of IRCC and that all those points are all right in line with what you would have expected that you would have gotten. Keep fingers crossed. Remember, lovey-dovey, that the express entry, that step-by-step course is right here for you. So when you go through, you can see here, you can access all the material, and I go through all of that, including a specific section right here on mastering the documents, which includes an overview of the section. The one right above it is the checklist, a summary of the checklist. Each of the sections, we specifically talk about that in there, and there's a section for records of employment and offers of employment. So pay attention to that and come join me. I'd love to have you join the course. Okay, let's see what's next here. As we zip back down to where I left off, kind of, sort of. Okay. Okay. This is a great question. Yele, you say, which knock is right for me? Well, the reality is, this is an exact triangle one. So duties and responsibilities are the thing that determines what your knock code is, not the title necessarily. So, yeah, so assistant sped teacher, as per company only, like literally it's the duties. So when I see those duties, that's when we can figure out exactly what the proper knock code is. All right. Okay. Let's take a little break. All right. So what I want to do right now, before we jump back into some more questions, is just to remind everybody that the next course that I have to offer is, after a much delayed release, is my study permit course. And you can actually apply for the study permit course right now. And the beauty of this is, if you're planning on January intake, no, like you're not going to have time. But the more advanced knowledge, the more advanced information you have to prepare, the better off you're going to be, because it takes time. So the study permit course is going to be launching December the 12th to the 16th is the masterclass component. But if you go back to our website right here, you will see that as I scroll down, oh, it's right above this one. Here is the study permit course. And when you click here, you can see that for a limited period of time until it launches, it's going to be $200 US instead of the regular $250. And you can see here, we cover all the topics that we're going to be covering in the course. And by purchasing early, you reserve your spot for when the actual content is released. The courses, we are just about finished completing everything here. It works for both individuals and immigration consultants, but you can enroll now to get access. As soon as the course is opened, you'll be first to be notified. And then when the master classes start, you'll have an ability to connect in. So the purchases are already starting to fly out right now as people are anticipating this. So if you are considering immigrating to Canada, you don't think you have enough CRS points, the study permit DIY course and masterclass, the masterclass will run December the 12th to the 16th at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. That will be your opportunity to learn everything you need to know about that process. And I will be there to answer questions. So strongly encourage you to consider that. Slide over. And that is the latest course that I'm really excited about. And I'd love to see you guys join me over there. Okay. All right. Let's keep zipping through here. Let's get to some more questions. All right. So next question. Let's see if I can pull it up. We have a little bit, some of these are popping up more than once. Oh, this is a tough one. Okay, Robert says, I was married in 2019 in my home country, but mentioned my marital status as single for my study and work permit. Now for my EE profile, will this be an issue? Yes, it will. Absolutely it will, Robert. You need to be able to explain why you misrepresented. Like, this is a huge, massive issue. And is your spouse now accompanying you? And yeah, on so many levels, this is a huge issue. And I'm not sure what would have motivated you to do that, but I strongly encourage you to book a consult and slide over. Okay. All right. Next up here, we've got Minal. I'd like to ask you, if I had my work experience in 2 different knock codes, is it acceptable for SIMP? Okay. So I looked at that one. So SIMP, we need, like I said before, you can see some of these are duplicated. I need a whole lot more information on that. Okay. Another one, Vishnoy says, what are the documents I can provide as proof of my foreign work experience? Well, reference letters, payslips are the 2 that immigration expects of you. But in the course that I have a ton of other information, and I'll just show you in my Express Entry course. So if we go back here in the Express Entry course, I actually have some really, really good resources. So let's go in this way. So if I log in like I'm logging in as a student, so this is my kind of my student access, and then I go through all the courses and I click on the Express Entry course, I can then go to Mastering Your Documents. And then in the Mastering Your Documents, I have a wonderful little lesson 43 called Records of Employment. In here, I have not only a 23-minute video, but I also have here Record of Employment checklist. So when I click on this, it's a nice little checklist that tells individuals what they need to do. Let's pull this up here. What they can even provide it to their employer, what I like to typically include. So reference letter that includes all that critical stuff, as well as pay slips and even tax assessment notices if they're available. So those are things that I focus on. But what if you can't get it? Well, that's where I have another document you can see right here, which is what if I can't get a reference letter? And then I have a whole bunch of different ideas and suggestions that are really designed to help you think about your own situation and the documents that you might have available, because they're all so different depending upon your situation. So I'd encourage you, Vishnoy, to subscribe to the course, look at the materials, and it will get the juices flowing when it comes to what else can I do. But the core stuff always is your reference letter and pay slips. Okay. Let's keep zipping through here. Don't think we have any new supers. No, we're still there. Okay. Let's see. Next up. Excuse me. I'm starting to get a little bit of a cold. All right. Let's see. Where are we going to next? Okay, so Vu says, I sent an email asking whether you provide services for EE application and the fee request, but no response has been received. Where did you send it, my friend? The reality is, if you go to our website, all information is right here. And I think if you guys haven't been to our website recently, you need to do it, because in here you will see, remove the cookie banner, you will see that there's about us, our team, our approach. The approach talks about our collaborative review approach, how it's just a little bit different, client-centered, firm-supported. Then you can see here, we have a ton of information on the various services that we offer. So legal help, if your application's rejected or you need, you receive a procedural fairness letter or whatever it might be, or it's delayed. So these are the different options that we have: judicial reviews, reconsideration requests, writs of mandamus. And then as you go across to your business immigration, this covers traditional work permits. We work with large companies all over the place, and we help them with their work permits, family class, all of this, visiting, working, studying, and of course, immigrating, what's on the list? Express entry, the different programs. We've got, tons of information, including linking back to the course. Now, other people say, well, what are your fees? Well, we have the fees right on our page. So you can see what the fees are, which each type of application is listed here. And there's a ton of information for all the different types of applications that we have. And generally speaking, we try to indicate what our fees are. And so you can access all of it right there. So when I get an email, it depends on which place you sent an email to. It may have gone to one that I don't monitor closely. So there's all the answers, and I'd be delighted to work with you, Vu. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Akbar says, is IRCC slowing down the issuance of COPR and postponed to next year since their targets are achieved for 2022? They're not significantly slowing this process down. Why? Because it's when you physically travel and land in Canada. So we're into November, so 2 months. Most people are not prepared to move right now if they get their COPR finalized and are ready to travel to Canada. So outside of Canada, they expect that it's going to take people a number of months to actually move. And so in those situations, I don't see FSW slowing down, not FSWs. Now for CECs, possibly they only want to land a certain number of people. But this year, understand they have a high, and this is something I want to identify for you guys. They have flexibility built into the system that allows them, so even for this year, if they've landed 465,000, or for 2023, let's go back to the 2022. So you can see last year, the targets for this were 55,900, but they also have room on a high range for up to 64,000. So they've got a little bit of wiggle room in case they want to go a little bit higher. And so for this year coming up for 2023, you can see that the range is still, there's room. They're looking for 82,000, but they could even go up as high as 88 for 2023. So that's why there isn't like this hard stop, because they know, they want people to land in a systematic way. And so, yeah, I don't believe that they're just going to stop, right? Okay. Okay, Fabrice, I'm not quite sure what his comments are. Doesn't that become a CEC then? Well, CEC, FSW, job offer, you're still getting points. Understand, Canadian work experience and job offers, they each are factored in differently. They give you points and they give you more competitive ability to get those ITAs. So I'm not quite sure what you mean by, after having 1 year in Canada, yes, you are then eligible for CEC. Absolutely. But when it comes to the International Mobility Program, it's not a direct touch on the labor market. That's the thing, Fabrice. So the reason they're so willing to allow LMIA-based work permits to give you those 50 points before you even come to Canada, it's because that employer had to show that there was no one that could do your job in Canada in order to get the approval, or at least one that was available to take up the job. So LMIAs are a real strong indicator that you are coming to fill a gap in the labor pool. It's not the case for your work permit. That's International Mobility Program. We could have 50 gazillion software engineers or whatever it is that come in through an intercompany transfer that are taking jobs away from Canadians in Canada with those companies. But there's also Canadians who have the ability to work for other companies in other countries. So it's that reciprocity. So that's the real key difference between the job offers for international mobility work permits that are LMIA exempt but employer specific, and why they need 1 year working in Canada to show, yes, this person is really, really getting tied to Canada. And arguably, sometimes when intercompany transfers come, they're bringing specialized knowledge, or they're in senior managerial or executive roles, which then have a filter down effect with your brain power you're bringing in. So there is ancillary benefits to the labor market through training people underneath you, even training people to replace you potentially. So that's the difference. Hopefully that provides a little bit more clarification. Okay, we've got about 6 minutes left, and then we're going to wrap this sucker up. Okay, let's see what's next here. Okay, Sunil says, my second program will complete in December 2023, but my passport expires on February 2025. When is the right time to apply for postgrad, before or after renewing passport? Your thoughts? Well, ultimately, you're going to be applying for your postgrad. You're not going to sit and wait, right? You're going to submit it. Now, if you can get a passport earlier, so that your passport is being renewed at the beginning of 2024, well, then that's great. But if you're completing your studies, you want to start as soon as you can. And the only way that you can start working full time once you receive confirmation that you've completed your program is to get that postgrad work permit application submitted. The moment it's submitted, you can then you can work. But in your situation, I wouldn't wait for the passport renewal unless somehow you can get a new passport back, that's in December 2023 with a validity date. Issued right around then. And for most countries, that's not the case. So I would go ahead, apply for the postgrad work permit, and then after you can renew it to recapture the full time that you should be awarded. So, all right. Okay. Marie here, Aquino, she says she's a student here in Alberta. That's great. First term. And I'm planning to take my 4 courses online this winter. Do you think it will not affect when I apply for postgrad? You have to be very, very careful with that. You need to make sure that you understand your plan. Okay. I don't know exactly how long you're planning on studying, but Marie, this is really volatile stuff. I'm going to ring the bell, and I'm going to strongly, strongly encourage you to slide over to our website here and click on the link, Speak to a Lawyer. There's also the link in the description for all of you to the courses and everything that I've been talking about. It's always in the description of the video, so check that out. But Marie, I recommend that you book a consult so we can sort that out, because that's making me a little nervous. Okay, and the last thing I'd want is for you to start down that path and then not have the ability to proceed. Okay. All right, so this question is from MJ. Sir, can I question my question? Okay, my husband has work now in Canada, and his work permit will expire this June 2023. Did he need another LMIA to extend his work permit for the same employer? Well, yes, unless there's another pathway, unless you have a permanent resident application in the queue and you can go through a bridging process, or somehow you are studying or working yourself in a skilled occupation. Then there's the spousal open work permit. But yeah, LMIAs are the way to extend if there's no other options. All right. Let's see. Manpreet asks a difficult question. Am I eligible to the bridging open work permit if I've applied for express entry with 480 because my postgrad is going to get over in a month? Understand, I'm assuming you're talking about the profile stage and not that you've got an ITA. without actually filing the EAPR, you're not eligible for a bridging open work permit. Manpreet, if you want to book a consult, we can talk about, see if there's some other options. Okay, once again, Katan, I'll also point out to you, this is really a consult because it's not title, it's duties. And so many people get hung up on the fact that, well, what's my title? And is my title this NOC or this NOC? I don't care what your title is. The regulations specifically indicate that to determine foreign work experience and the proper selection of a NOC, you need to have performed a substantial number of the main duties as well as all of the activities in the lead statement on the NOC. All right. You're welcome, Eric. My pleasure. Okay. This I see a lot, G2D2. FSW applicant. Recently, I'm seeing many people getting their PR very fast in a matter of months or two. Does this mean that there's a new efficient system with IRCC? Well, everything. Once they get through the backlogs, how long does it take them to process an express entry? It's designed to be really fast. And so whether it's FSW or otherwise, you know, when you're going through the express entry process, it's just the high volume of applicants that got stuck in the queue that created these lengthy processing times. So I really suspect that they're going to be moving forward in a positive way. All right. I think that's it. There are, let's see here. I think we're going to answer it. Manpreet, I'll just pull up your comment. Why are you not answering my question? Because not everybody gets their questions answered. It's as simple as that. If your question is something that's of a general importance, then we'll try to answer it. If it's something that is specific just to you, then that's when I ring the bell and it's I direct you to book a consult. Okay. All right. We're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much, everybody tuning in on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube today. This is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer. Yes, I am. Back at it again. I'll be here tomorrow at 11 a.m. with Alicia, and where she'll be sharing her extensive knowledge on Canadian immigration, answering your questions. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow. And as always, if you are looking at getting any help with any aspect of your Canadian immigration process, please consider retaining one of the firms and one of the lawyers, immigration lawyers in my firm. You can go to our website, holthelaw.com, and you can get a ton of information about the processes that are available for people. I want to highlight once again that if you have questions, the best place to start is to click on Speak to a Lawyer. You can check out our fees here. You can read our blog posts, which are extensive, that we're constantly releasing. Just had one released just yesterday on the levels plans. We've got more information on tier. You can see it goes on and on and on and on. And then subsequent to that, we often will do corresponding videos right here on our YouTube channel, all designed to make your process as easy as possible and help you avoid those problems that people run into. And finally, the sponsor of this is the Canadian Immigration Institute. And we're always launching new courses. And once again, I want to highlight the flagship course, which is this one right here, our study permit course, which is open now. The card is open for you to pre-purchase, and you can get it for $50 US cheaper than the regular rate once it's launched. December 12th to the 16th is when we're going to be doing our master classes, and that should give you guys lots of time to prepare for going to school next year. Share it with individuals. And I guess I will point out one other thing. Those of you who are the alumni that keep coming back and saying hello, you went through my courses, remember that there's the affiliate program. All you have to do is join the affiliate program, and then anyone who subscribes to the courses through your unique affiliate link, you will earn 30% on that for anyone who clicks off of their unique affiliate link. So remember, that's there. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in today. Another awesome live. We'll see you tomorrow at 11. And remember, Cedric is going strong as well. And if we go back here to our main page, you can see that's this is the live right now. We've got queued up Alicia in mind tomorrow, and then Cedric is scheduled for tomorrow at 5:30 a.m. So we've got everything trying to reach as many people as possible at different time zones. And that's what we do. All right, guys, take care. Thanks for connecting in. And yeah, we'll see all of you guys in the next live. Take care, Marie and Ariane. Yes, I hope I will feel better. Okay, see you.